The Industry TV will give you a behind-the-scenes look of how our industry works.
We're going to give you an in-depth look at some of the industry's most innovative products, services, and organizations. Then we're going to take a look behind the scenes and look at the manufacturing, the development, and the concept of everything. Then we're going to head out to the field and see how everything works.
And that's not all. On this television series, you're going to get tips on hunting and producing video from top professionals in the industry. You're not going to want to miss an episode.
Welcome to the Industry TV.
On this week's episode of the Industry TV, we're going to take a look at a new trail cam company called SpyPoint. Then we're going to head over to Iowa with Rod White, where he shows us how he uses trail cams all the time to his advantage. And guess what? He takes another Boone and Crockett deer. This week's Wild Talkers Tips is one of the best of the year. You're not going to want to miss that. And Kurt Rodder's going to talk about audio when it comes to production. You're not going to want to miss what's next on the Industry TV.
SpyPoint is a line of game cameras that does video, photo. It is meant for, for scouting your deer or to hang over a bird feeder for your outdoor enthusiasts. The quality is there for both. The Pro X model features a 12 megapixel camera for better picture quality. We have a 3-inch viewing screen that you can take right out of the unit and view your photos right at the spot. A really neat feature about this camera is the audio. It's one of the only cameras out on the market that you can actually, hear two bucks fighting. We have 46 LED lights. We have a 5-zone sensor which captures your animal coming in sooner than most game cameras. We print date, time, and moon phases on the photos. The cameras are going to run on 6 AA batteries or a lithium battery pack. And the 3-inch viewing screen can be removed from the unit that morning of your hunt. You take it up to your tree with you, and now you can view all your photos that happened overnight or in the morning before your hunt. SpyPoint has a full line of game cameras that range from $129 up to $349. The quality and the technology are the exact same in every camera. The difference is going to be what features you want. May it be a flash camera, infrared, a viewing screen, or even audio. The customer is not stuck with one camera. He can pick the features that he needs and what best fits his pocketbook. Typically at night, game cameras use a 10-degree infrared LED. Here at SpyPoint, we are using 10-degree, 25-degree, and 40-degree all at the same time to give you a much wider and brighter illumination. At SpyPoint, they've come up with a 5-zone sensor, which is going to capture your animals at a wider range and at faster trigger times. Trigger speed means you're not going to miss animals. The wider detection zone means you're going to capture more animals on your camera. One of the advantages of SpyPoint cameras is the hunter can download the new version software every year. All they have to do is visit SpyPoint.com. Some of the accessories available for the SpyPoint cameras are a 12-volt battery, solar panel, and a rechargeable lithium battery. SpyPoint is manufactured in North America. Our corporate office is in Canada. We have a division in the US, most recently a division in Europe. Our product is not made in China, and it is a high-quality product. SpyPoint has been developing cameras for the past 7 years. With our newest line of game cameras and all the new technology that's out there, we have just introduced these cameras to the market for the very first time. SpyPoint full line of game cameras can be found at hundreds of dealers across the US and Canada. If a dealer or a customer cannot find them, all they have to do is go to SpyPoint.com.
Up next, field testing results for SpyPoint. The Industry TV is brought to you by SpyPoint Trail Cameras, the Wind Pro, Gut Wrench, Matthews bows. The Buckeye Dragonfly. Rod White's Land and Game. Bird Guard. Mrs. Doe Peas. The Extinguisher Deer Call, and Illusion Game Call Systems.
One of the keys to success later in the season, by far, I think, is the fact that when we go in to plant the food plots and do those first phases of preparation, we'll walk every inch of that property with our clients. When that's done is also the same time that we need to go in there and hang the stands and get the property set up for November. By hanging those stands well in advance of the hunting season, we don't violate any trust that we're going to try to build with our deer throughout the entire season on the property. After the stands are placed, it's time to start monitoring the activity on the property with the game cameras. Once the season arrives and our clients are all taken care of, there's nothing that stops us from spending just a little time on our own properties. The critical part that you have to remember when you're dealing with a deer of this caliber, when you see him come crashing in and disappear again, is that he's not necessarily leaving the property, leaving the area completely. In this case, he was looking for a hot doe. So all he was doing was moving from room to room to room. Rather than panicking and smashing antlers together and start grunting and making all sorts of noises trying to bring him out, snort wheezes, I just let him do his thing and check his rooms until he got back into the vicinity again where I could work him again with the call. About going from being freaking bored out of your mind to just like that. One of my best hunting buddies is my son, who's also my personal tracker. So I went back and picked him up before going to recover the deer. It's November 5th. We just got done smashing a big buck on camera. We're headed to pick up my son to go track him. It's on one of our properties, actually my personal property that I bought, 85 acres in Jefferson County. It's been a heck of a day. It's a great day, really wet, windy conditions, and when it's overcast like this, these are the days you need to be out in a tree stand. If you're out at work somewhere, call in because you need to be out there. Circle clear around us.
How much inches was it?
I don't know. I bet he's at least 160. I bet he might even be 170.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Up next, trail camera techniques with Rod White.
Cameras are extremely important and vital to gathering information that we need to be able to judge deer whether they're ready to be harvested this year or whether they're deer that we should let walk whenever we encounter them in the timber. Too often when we're hunting out there by ourselves, it's tough to call whether a deer is a shooter or a non-shooter, especially in really stressful situations where you've called a deer in because of a rattling sequence, for example, or if you've grunted one in and it comes running in, you may have a very small window to choose whether you're going to shoot that deer or not shoot that deer. That's where the cameras really come into play and become extremely important to us so that we can take inventory of the bucks that we have on each and every farm. Our camera places oftentimes are nothing short of unique. Sometimes we put them on fence posts like this, sometimes we tie them to small trees, and in some cases we even drive a rod in the ground where we need a camera placed. But most importantly, those cameras are placed in areas where we're traveling to and from our stands or places that are in the wide open, especially in field scenario settings where we're not going to be interacting with that camera more than necessary. When we go into and out of our stands, we're always making sure that we touch our cameras with gloves when we need to change out the cards, and we touch them only as much as possible. So typically, just for an example, one camera that we may have out in the field, we may only visit that camera 3 or 4 times throughout the entire season at key points whenever there are major transitions throughout the seasons from a whitetail perspective. Maybe it's before the rut, right after the rut, and maybe it's even on feeding patterns late into the season. For us, it's not particularly important to judge exactly when the time of a deer may be walking past a certain point, but most importantly to judge what type of animals are using the property so we can make clear decisions on what types of buck we want to take and what types of bucks we want to let go for the next year. One of the things I like about the SpyPoint Pro X is because we don't often go to our cameras and we touch them only whenever it's absolutely necessary to take inventory of what's on there, the longer time periods that we can go without changing cards out, the more important that is to us. With the SpyPoint camera, it actually allows us to go longer periods of times before we go and check our cards and not have to worry about the card being full of images. You know, in some states you can't put out corn or you can't put out mineral rocks in order to get those valuable pictures that you're trying to get whenever you are trying to get the inventory for your bucks. That's what I like about the SpyPoint camera, is it has a really wide range of illumination so that if we place this camera over a trail system or where several trails converge or over multiple scrape lines, we can make sure that we capture all the images that may be to the side, not necessarily the buck that may be just in front of the camera. Another key advantage to this camera that we simply don't see with other cameras is when you open it up and you're scouting in the field, it has an on-screen display so that we can go through not only our pictures but our videos to analyze anything in the field to see if we may need to make a quick adjustment while we're hunting that day. Some of the areas you'll put cameras are pretty obvious, such as scrape lines and rub lines. Some of the things that we may do a little different that you may not have thought of before is placing cameras on an old rub line where we know that those rubs are going to reappear year after year. In many cases, those are obviously the same deer that are showing up, and they may be 3, 4, and 5 years old, which are obviously the bucks that we're targeting most of the time. By thinking outside the box, you may be surprised some of the images that you'll get on your cameras.
Video tips from Kurt and some never-before documented footage of white-tailed deer behavior coming up next.